Chapter 18. Down the Rabbit Hole. The White Rabbit didn't have time to wonder why the witches were so afraid, why their eyes were filled with terror, or why he could still hear their screams even after the mirror went black. The earth had stopped shaking, and he had no time to worry about witches or wonder why Wonderland had been trembling. He needed to get to his queen before she wandered off somewhere and became lost in London. He needed to protect her. He had failed her once before, and he was determined not to do it again. He ran as fast as he could through the hedge maze and into the woods, passing the Tweedle brothers and the March Hare and Hatter, who looked as if they were making their way home again. He didn't stop to talk to any of them, not the Carpenter, Caterpillar, and certainly not the Cheshire Cat. But he did stop to talk to the king, who was sitting on a log at the edge of the rabbit hole, his face buried in his hands. "She's gone! She's gone! Whatever will I do without our queen?" The king was blubbering uncontrollably, making a spectacle of himself. That is, he would be, if anyone else were there. The rabbits supposed he should feel bad for the king, but the truth was, he didn't. He couldn't bring himself to feel sorry for the man who refused to save his queen, the man who allowed his queen to waste away in the White Queen's cell for all those years. "I suppose you will do what you did all those many years she was locked away," said the rabbit, his hands on his hips and his chin high. "You could have saved her, you know. You could have stood up to the White Queen, but instead you let her wither, let her think we didn't care for her. This is your fault. At least we knew where she was. This time she just vanished. She's gone. She's gone forever." "Vanished? What do you mean?" "She disappeared when she ran through the door after Alice. Just like that. Gone." "Are you sure?" "Quite sure. Oh, this is the saddest day, the worst of days. My dearest love is gone." The king slumped over in anguish. The rabbit sighed. There was no sense in being cruel to this sad man. The rabbit supposed this king likely couldn't help but to be a fool. It seemed like many of those who lived in Wonderland couldn't help their demeanors. But the last thing he wanted was for the king to follow him through the rabbit hole. He would have enough on his hands trying to find the queen on his own. So he decided to be gentle with the king to get him out of the way. There, little king. You go back to the castle and I will look into this. Just leave it to me." He gave a great sigh as he watched the king make his way down the path to the castle. It seemed impossible that the queen would simply vanish, just like that moment when she walked through the rabbit hole door. The king had to be mistaken, but he told himself to be prepared for whatever might happen as he made his way to the door, afraid of what he might find on the other side, afraid to become an ordinary rabbit in such a strange and unfamiliar world. But he didn't have a choice. He had to find his queen. Suddenly, he was plagued with questions. What if the queen wasn't in the park? What if she found London frightening and ran away? And how was he going to find her once he became an ordinary rabbit? None of it mattered. He screwed up his courage, remembering what the witches had said, that everyone was afraid. So he put his paw on the knob, opened the door, and stepped through. On the grass right on the other side of the door was a playing card, the Queen of Hearts. But he knew it wasn't an ordinary card. It was his queen. He sat there in the grass, just an ordinary rabbit looking at an ordinary playing card. If anyone in the park had noticed, they would think he once belonged to a magician. They would never guess he was from another world, a rabbit who failed his queen. He was heartbroken. He hated that she no longer trusted him, that she didn't consider him to be her friend. And just like that, before he could prove he hadn't betrayed her, she was gone. Gone forever, without knowing how much he truly loved her. What would he do in Wonderland now without the queen, his dearest and only friend? He picked up the card with his mouth and hopped through the door back to Wonderland. And once he was on the other side, he was no longer an ordinary rabbit, and the card was no longer an ordinary playing card, but his queen. He couldn't believe it. She looked just as she had on their first day. "My queen! You're alive!" he said, wrapping his furry arms around her, hugging her over and over in joy and disbelief. "Well, of course I'm alive. But how is it that I find myself being hugged by a talking rabbit wearing a silly ruff around his neck and carrying a trumpet? It is odd, don't you think? But I suppose I don't know what is odd and what is ordinary, considering I have no idea who I am or what this place is, added the Queen, making the rabbit laugh. It doesn't matter who you were, Your Majesty. What matters is who you are today. He smiled at her. Today is your first day, said the rabbit, trying not to cry. What do you mean, first day? Everyone's story has to start somewhere, doesn't it? And it seems our Queen starts today. Here, right outside this rabbit hole. Why not make the most of it? But what of all the other days that came before today? Where are they? She asked with a bewildered look on her face. They're behind us, or maybe in front of us. Who knows? All that matters is today, said the White Rabbit. But I don't even know who I am today. Think of it this way. You are the Queen of Hearts, and you rule this land. That's a good start, don't you think? Am I? Well, I do suppose that is a very good start, she said, her smile returning. And as your subject, I am at your whim. What shall we make our first order of business? Perhaps we should bake a bunch of cakes, she asked with a cheeky smirk. Cakes may not be the best way to start. Why don't we come up with another plan together, on our way to your castle? Don't worry, Your Majesty. I will show you the way. The end. And that is the ending of Heartbroken, a tale of the angry queen. Thank you so much for joining me on this very long journey of our Queen of Hearts. And as you know, Serena Valentino is currently working on her, I want to say her third draft of the 13th book. Now, I'm not going to tell you anything, but let's just say this villain is pretty old, like 1940s old, give or take, and not human at all. Let's just say this villain is the stuff of nightmares, lurching on a mountain, ready to take on the world at his fist. Who knows? But honestly, I can't wait. Supposedly, the 13th book is supposed to be coming out this summer. Keep track of when the book will be coming out. I will surely let you guys know. Until then, enjoy the rest of my Read Aloud series. And until next time, stay safe. No sliding on ice unless you know how to figure skate. All right. See you real soon, guys. Bye-bye.